What's happening around the world and what's happening here at home. A very good evening to and welcome to Weekend Primetime News. I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Major flood threat in the proximity of the Malwatu Oya. Holiday announced for school students in the eastern province. Senior journalist Victor Ivan passes away. Gaza-Israel ceasefire begins. Israel's national security minister resigns.
In our top story for tonight, heavy rains have affected 5 districts in the island. The Disaster Management Centre said that the Anuradhapura, Kilinochchi, Kurunegala, Nuwara and Galle districts have been affected by heavy showers. According to the Disaster Management Centre, 910 people from 325 families have been affected by the adverse weather. The DMC added that 46 people from 9 families have been relocated to safe shelters.
Over the past 24 hours, the highest rainfall in the country has been recorded in Trincomalee, which was 178 millimeters. A rainfall of 172 millimeters has been reported from Ulhitia. According to the Department of Irrigation, with the rising water levels in Mundeniyaru, Malwatu Oya and Mahaveli River, there is a possibility of flooding in Mahaoya of the Ampara district. The Department of Irrigation warns those living in low-lying areas in Malwatu Oya, including Vengalachetty Kulam, Madhu, Mosalai and Nanatan divisional secretariats of the risk of floods. As the water level in the Mahaveli River rises, flood warnings have been issued for divisional secretariats, including Dibulagala, Ichalampatre, Hinguraggoda, Kantale, Kinya, Korelepatra, North, Lankapura, Madrigeria, Modur, Seruvila and Tamankadua and will remain in effect for the next 48 hours. Landslide warnings have been issued for 4 districts, including the Kandy, Badulla, Kurunegala and Mathale divisional secretariats. Level 2 warnings have been issued to the areas including the Ududumbar divisional secretariat of the Kandy district, Yatavata, Ukuvela, Rathota and Vilgamo divisional secretariats of the Mathale district. The Department of Meteorology has issued a warning for coastal areas from Colombo to Puttalam and Mana to Kankasanturai. According to the warning, wind speeds in these areas could reach up to 50 to 60 kilometers per hour at times, and the sea conditions could become rough.
Several roads have been inundated due to the heavy rains. The road from Galnava to Hiriapitia via Handungama has been inundated close to the Handungama school. Flow of traffic along this road has come to a complete standstill. Our correspondent said that the road from Aukana to Kakirava has been blocked due to flooding near the Aukana temple. The road leading from Kalavava to Tambuttegama through Aukana has been flooded near the Aukana bridge. Due to heavy rainfall, the Pallebada road has been inundated near Niloba. The Horopatana town has been flooded due to heavy rains. According to our correspondent, daily life as well as transportation has been severely disrupted and electricity has been cut off in many villages. With the heavy rainfall, the Minipe Anikat in Vilgamur Mathale has overflowed, resulting in several low-lying areas including paddy fields being inundated. Spill gates of several reservoirs have been opened due to the rising water levels caused by heavy rains. 2 sluice gates of the Kalavava were opened to a height of 15 feet this morning, releasing water at a rate of 10,938 cubic feet per second to the Kala Oya. Due to heavy rainfall, the water levels of the Giritale reservoir continues to rise. The two emergency sluice gates of the Angamur tank have been opened since last night, releasing water at a rate of 656 cubic feet per second into the Lunuoya.
Heavy rainfall has caused floods in several areas of the northern and eastern provinces. The Trincomalee, Batticaloa, Kinya, Ampara and Jaffna districts are experiencing minor flooding. As a result, all schools in the eastern province will be closed tomorrow. The term exams scheduled for tomorrow will now be held next Saturday. The banks of the Tantirimale Dodambi Reservoir in the Valachia Divisional Secretariat had collapsed today due to heavy showers. According to our correspondent, this had resulted in the water level of the reservoir dropping to zero. Paddy fields in the area have been affected by the silt and sediment being washed into the fields by the water that flowed out of the reservoir. Due to the rapid rise in the water levels of the Horopatana Maha Reservoir, a section of the bank of the reservoir has been removed from close to the overflow spillway of the reservoir to allow water to flow into the Yarnoya. The Department of Meteorology predicts that showers in the north, north-central, eastern, Uva and central provinces will continue through the next 24 hours. According to the department, several areas may receive rainfall of about 100 millimeters.
"61 people were injured in a road accident that occurred this morning. Two buses had collided head-on in Thalala and Gandhara. Two private buses collided head-on opposite the Thalala Gandhara hospital. The accident occurred at 9:30 a.m. today. One of the private buses involved in the accident was travelling from Mathura to Ambilipitiya, while the other private bus was travelling from Tangol to Mathura. Flow of traffic along the Mathura-Tangol main road was blocked for about an hour due to the accident. This is how the bus travelling from Mathura to Ambilipitiya had crashed into a wall. The police, along with the area residents, had taken steps to immediately hospitalize those who were injured in the accident. The police said that 3 of the injured victims are in serious condition. Among the injured who were admitted to the Mathura General Hospital is a 26-year of Dutch national. The injured include 32 women, 27 men and 3 children. How did the accident occur?
This accident occurred as both of the buses were travelling at high speeds and had travelled along the right lane when making a large turn.
මේ දුරගමන් බස් සේවාවල මේ නිතර දකින්න තත්ත්වයක් තමයි මේ අධික වේගය සහ මාර්ග නීති උල්ලංඝනය කරමින් ධාවනය කිරීම. මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් තවදුරටත් ඉදිරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නවා.
We will definitely be taking action against them. It was raining at the time of the accident. Based on the information that we have at the moment, it was revealed that these two buses were travelling at high speeds. However, we will be able to provide accurate answers at the end of our investigation.
TikTok has stopped working in the United States and disappeared from Apple and Google app stores ahead of a law that takes effect requiring the shutdown of the platform used by 170 million Americans. TikTok users in the US are migrating to a Chinese app called Red Note. The move by users who call themselves TikTok refugees has made Red Note the most downloaded app on the Apple's US App Store.
Just hours before a big deadline, TikTok made the shocking decision to shut down voluntarily. The move came after the Supreme Court upheld a new law that could effectively ban the app due to its ties to China. You might be wondering, how did we get here? Well, it all started last year when Congress passed a law aimed at TikTok's parent company ByteDance, giving them until January 19th to either sell the app or face being cut off from the US app stores and hosting services. TikTok fought back, saying a sale wasn't possible, and took the issue to court. But on Friday, the Supreme Court sided with the government, ruling that the law did not violate TikTok's rights. In fact, they agreed with the government's concern that TikTok could be used by China to gather sensitive data on Americans. With the clock ticking, TikTok had one last chance to stop the ban. They asked the Biden administration for help, but the White House dismissed their plea as a stunt and said it was up to the incoming Trump administration to decide what happens next. Then, TikTok decided to shut itself down before today's deadline. If you opened the app late Saturday night, you were greeted with a message that read, "Sorry, TikTok isn't available right now." It went on to explain that the app was banned in the US and hinted at a possible solution once President Trump took office. TikTok was also removed from both the Apple and Google Play stores, leaving many users scrambling for alternatives. So, what happens now? Well, if you're in the US, you won't be able to use TikTok anymore, at least not for now. But instead, many TikTok users are flocking to an app called Red Note. You might not have heard of it before, but it's quickly becoming the most downloaded app in the US App Store.
Hi, who else is here from TikTok?
This is so much better than TikTok.
Red Note is a lot like TikTok. It's a short video platform that lets users share everything from dance challenges to fashion tips. The app is already huge in China and Taiwan, and now it's seeing a surge in popularity among former TikTok users who are calling themselves TikTok refugees.
TikTok refugee here.
But here's the twist. Red Note isn't without its own problems. Like TikTok, it has been accused of censoring content, especially anything critical of the Chinese government. In Taiwan, even public officials are banned from using it because of concerns over Chinese software. So while it may be a good temporary fix for TikTok users, it might not be the perfect solution. But there's still a chance things could change. Tomorrow, Donald Trump will be inaugurated as the US president, and he has suggested that he might give TikTok a 90-day reprieve from the ban. But could Red Note step up to be the next big platform? Or will another app rise to fill the gap left by TikTok? Let's wait and see.
The 47th President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, is all set to take charge as he reached Washington this morning ahead of his inauguration ceremony marking his return to the White House.
The incoming president's inaugural weekend began with a star-studded 500-member reception at the Trump National Golf Club in Virginia, which included his cabinet nominees Pete Hegseth and Lee Zeldin. Trump's inaugural ceremony includes 18 galas, with 3 official events that the president-elect is expected to attend. Today alone, Trump is scheduled to hold a major Make America Great Again victory rally at Capital One Arena for his supporters. This will be the first such event in the United States Capitol that Trump will address since his speech at the Ellipse in 2021, which led to the Capitol riots. Thereafter, Trump will be sworn in as the 47th President of the United States at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, as the United States Constitution mandates that each new president's term begins at noon on the 20th of January. The oath is most often administered by the Supreme Court Chief Justice, and tomorrow would mark Chief Justice John Roberts' second time officiating for Trump. The new president is then expected to deliver an inaugural address laying out his plans for the next 4 years. The incoming vice president will also be sworn in during the event. Following the ceremony, the president, along with his spouse, vice president, Senate leaders and distinguished guests, would be escorted to Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol for a celebratory luncheon hosted by the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, or the JCCIC. In the first act as the president after taking the oath, Trump is likely to participate in a traditional signing of executive orders, officially beginning his second administration. The incoming president has pledged to fulfill a number of his poll promises on day one by signing executive orders, but it is not clear what issues will be first up. Trump is likely to reinstate some executive orders from his first term that President Biden had revoked. Among other promises, he has pledged to launch a mass deportation program and increase oil drilling. He has also said he might immediately begin pardoning the 6th of January rioters, his followers who ransacked the Capitol in 2021. Immediately after the inauguration, a meeting is planned between U.S. officials and foreign ministers from Japan, India and Australia, the so-called Quad, which the Biden administration saw as a counterweight to an assertive China.
Hamas says it has handed over 2 mediators, the names of 3 Israeli captives, to be freed by the group on the first day of the implementation of the ceasefire deal in Gaza. It comes after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the ceasefire will not begin until Hamas releases the names of the captives. The Palestinian group blamed technical reasons for the delay.
Hamas released the names of the 3 Israeli captives to be freed on the first day of the implementation of the ceasefire deal in Gaza, a Hamas spokesperson said in a post on Telegram. The move potentially clears the way for the truce to begin after an hours-long delay. Abu Obeda, spokesman for Hamas's armed wing, the Qassam Brigades, said, quote-unquote, as part of the prisoner exchange deal, we decided to release today Romy Gonen, 24 years old, Emily Damari, 28 years old, and Doran Khair, 31 years old. The Palestinian group blamed technical reasons for the delay. However, Israeli artillery shelling and air raids resumed in Khan Yunis in the south and Nusayrat in the central strip, despite the Gaza ceasefire starting according to mediators' timeline. According to Gaza Civil Defense Agency, Israeli strikes killed at least 10 people and wounded dozens after the agreed time of the ceasefire deal to come to effect. A statement confirmed that 6 people were killed in Gaza City, 3 in northern Gaza and 1 in Rafah, with more than 25 injured. Meanwhile, Israel's far-right National Security Minister, along with 2 other ministers from his nationalist religious party, have resigned from Netanyahu's cabinet over the ceasefire deal.
אם העסקה המופקרת תאושר ותצא לפועל, אנחנו חברי עוצמה יהודית נמסור מכתבי התפטרות לראש הממשלה, ועוצמה יהודית לא תהיה חלק מהממשלה ותפרוש ממנה.
The Jewish Power Party is no longer part of the ruling coalition, it said, adding it will not try to bring down the government.
Newsfirst, main sponsor.
International Edu Expo with EdLocate on the 1st and 2nd February. Call us to register.
Senior journalist Victor Ivan has passed away at the age of 75. Spokesperson for the National Hospital in Gaul said that Victor Ivan passed away while receiving treatment at the hospital. He was the chief editor of the Ravi newspaper and a pioneer in the art of investigative journalism in Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, 1 person was shot dead in Mount Lavinia today.
The shooting had occurred close to the railway track at Siripala Road in Mount Lavinia at 11:30 this morning. Savindu Tharusha, a 24-year-old resident of Badovita, was killed in the shooting. He was shot at when he was travelling in a three-wheeler with a woman and a child. Savindu succumbed to his injuries after being admitted to the Kalubovila Teaching Hospital. According to the police, one of the suspects who carried out the shooting was nabbed by the Dehiwala police while he was fleeing the scene. The arrested suspect has been identified as Srinath Priyashantha, a 47-year-old resident of Dehiwala. The weapon used for the shooting was also recovered from the possession of the suspect. One other suspect is at large.
On tonight's edition of What Happened to the Village, we dive deeper into a stalled government project that has led to the loss of billions in public funds, raising concerns over its impact on the local population's safety and well-being.
What happened to the village?
The project in question involves the construction of a new office for the Northwestern Governor, which began in 2019 on land owned by the Provincial Council. Originally estimated at 974 million rupees, the project was funded with 299 million rupees. Completion was scheduled for 2022, but to date, as of 2025, the work remains unfinished. What was meant to be a development that would benefit thousands of people has ended up serving only them.
There has been a lot of fraud and corruption going on here. The public really needs to know about this, and it's something that should be investigated. Over time, things have been manipulated. The people in this area are really struggling. They're living in tough conditions. A lot of government institutions rely on rental agreements, but now those are being phased out, and more money is going to private individuals. The estimate of all of this is around 1 billion rupees. The cables inside have been poorly stored and they've been falling apart for the last 5 to 6 years. They are unusable. The result is that all these resources are going to waste. And after re-evaluating the situation, they are putting more money into it. These problems need to be fixed.
If the project were to collapse entirely, the consequences could be severe. On one side of the site stands the Provincial Council, and on the other, a ground regularly used by students. With so many lives at risk and public funds wasted, many are calling for an urgent investigation into the handling of the project.
What happened to the village?
In many rural areas across Sri Lanka, communities face hardships that many of us in urban areas rarely think about. Despite their hard work and resilience, these rural populations are asking for very basic things to improve their lives. Things that we often take for granted: roads to their villages, clean drinking water, water for farming, and a market to sell their goods.
පාරේ තියෙන තත්ත්වය ඉතින් වෙලාවකට කලන්ත හැදිලා වැටෙන්නත් යනවා. 90 තමයි අපි ආවේ. දැන් නම් දෙයි හාමුදුරන්ගේ පිටේ මං හිතනවා මැරෙන්න ඉස්සෙල්ලා පාර හදලා දෙයි කියලා. මේ ලස්සන බලලා අපිට මැරෙන්නේ.
The road to Dehiyattakandiya, Kudagala and Hulang Badanagala in Ampara is in dire need of attention.
ගම්මාසික සමුදායකත්වයෙන් අපි මේ පාර පස් දාලා ගල් කුඩු දාලා පුරවගත්තා. ඊටසේ නැවත නැවතත් අපිට ඒක කරගන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අපි ඊට පස්සේ මේ බලධාරීන්ට නිලධාරීන්ට මේ පිළිබඳව අපි ලිඛිතව දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා. තාමත් ඉතින් හරියම මේ උත්තරයක් හම්බුන්නේ නැහැ.
දැන් මේ වෙනකොට රෝහලට යන්නත් බෑ, නගරයට යා ගන්නත් බෑ, පාසලට දරුවන්ට යා ගන්න බැරි මට්ටමකට මේ පාර වැටලා තියෙනවා.
එතකොට බබාලා හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. හරියට යන්නවත් යන්න බෑ. කරනවා කියලා යනවා. නමුත් කෙරිච්ච තැනක් නැහැ.
The grandmother team came across these villages during a visit to the Ampara district. The team also visited villages in the area. In the Egodakalagamu village in Kandy, people rely on the Mahavali river for drinking water despite its contamination with floodwaters and mud. This river is their only source of water. Despite various water supply projects designed to improve water access, 12 families in this village still do not have access to clean drinking water. Today, the grandmother team visited them to better understand and address the ongoing water shortages.
Gammatha, door to door.
Newsfirst with the people.
President Anura Kumara Dissanayake assured that this country will not be allowed to slide back into an era of the old, dirty and failed political culture. Speaking in Kalutara today, President Dissanayake emphasized that the country's economy will be rebuilt in a manner where the country will never face an economic crisis similar to what was experienced in 2022 and 2023.
A meeting of party members of the National People's Power in the Kalutara district was held today. The meeting held at the Pokunuvita Janasita grounds in Horana was chaired by President Anura Kumara Dissanayake.
Even now they are attempting to sabotage us before our government can stabilize and implement our program. But all we have to say to them is that everyone has the right to dream. They can dream on. Former presidents have spent between 700 to 800 million rupees for their security. This country does not have to bear a burden like that. They had used personal security officers to even pin their wives' jackets. It is in such a country that we are changing things now. The house where Mahinda Rajapaksa is living in was assessed by the government valuation department. The land was not assessed since we have still not been able to locate the deed. Based on the valuation of the house, the monthly rent is 4.6 million rupees. We will soon send him a letter saying that 1/3 of his salary is for the house and that the government will pay 30,000 rupees for the house, and if he wants to live in that house, he will have to pay for the rest. If not, he can leave. Government valuers went to the residence of former President Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga as well to assess her house, but she had asked them to come back when she returns to the country, as she was in London at that time. She has come back now, so I asked them to go and assess her house. This is how this country was destroyed. What are they trying to do again now? They are trying to use public property and the wealth of the general public according to their own whims and fancies. We have changed that political culture. There are many other things that we are planning on doing, and we will change this political culture. You may have seen large numbers of vehicles parked. People are asking where those vehicles are now. The Cabinet of Ministers had taken a decision regarding those vehicles. The market will be open for vehicle imports from the 1st of February. We are waiting until then, as there are some changes that are happening. After that, all of these vehicles will be publicly auctioned. There are scores of vehicles that cannot be sustained by this government. Anyone who wants to purchase them can do so. This is not a political system that is above the people. It is a political system that is with the people. This is the political culture that the people of this country were hoping for decades. We will not allow this country to slide back into an era of that old, dirty and failed political culture. If any political force is to take over from us, they should do so to take this political change forward and not to take things back to the way they were.
The President also spoke about the concessions that will be given to the general public.
We know that the general public is facing difficulties in making ends meet. We need a good database on who should be given concessions. We will get that by June. We have begun to give concessions to the people in any way that we can. In the upcoming budget proposal, the allowance for senior citizens, allowance for patients suffering from chronic kidney disease, state sector salaries, allowances paid to disabled children and the Mahapolo scholarship will be increased by a certain amount that is conducive with our economic situation. Our policy as a government is to sparingly use the money in the treasury and give them to the people who are most in need. This country that was bankrupt without a single dollar, the situation that was prevalent in the country 2 to 3 years ago is not completely solved. Although it appears to have been solved on the surface, internally there is a massive economic crisis in this country. What should we strive to do? We assure you that we will not allow for an economic crisis to come about in this country again, similar to what was experienced in 2022 and 2023. We will rebuild the economy of this country in a manner that no one could ever destroy our country like that again. To stabilize this economy, we definitely need the assistance of the international community. We cannot achieve development without the support of India. So we first went to India. We also visited China. A strong and stable economic structure is being built in this country.
The
president also spoke of punishing the corrupt.
People speak to me and say everything is good, but isn't anything going to happen to the corrupt? If we could have gone to their homes, grabbed them by the ear and thrown them in prison, many would have been in prison already. But that is not how a government must function. Proper investigations must be conducted. The issue at the Criminal Investigations Department is that Gotabaya Rajapaksa had transferred 600 officers of the CID. There were no officers at the CID who knew about these investigations and knew about the files. We needed these 2 months to bring back these efficient officers who know about these investigations and these files. We cannot get them transferred back tomorrow after sending a letter today. We need the permission of the Independent Police Commission. They were a bit reluctant. I too am reluctant about the commission. I would also like to say that. We have not requested for police officers to be transferred to protect anyone, encourage corruption, or to break the law. We needed a Director General for the Bribery Commission. The former Director General of the Bribery Commission had resigned as there was a case filed against him. There was a need to appoint a new Director General. The appointment has to be made through the Constitutional Council. Last week he was appointed and I believe that this week he has started work in his office. Several important cases will be filed by the Bribery Commission. The Criminal Investigations Department is carrying out investigations. The Attorney General's Department provides them with advice, and based on that advice, cases will be filed in the future. This must be done properly. We have given these institutions the full power to conduct these investigations properly. The type of administration that the people hoped for is being built. Is this only our aspiration? No, this is your aspiration as well. The groups who were defeated are hurting. I would like to say that the hurt hasn't started yet.
The president further extended an invitation to all media organizations.
I would like to say that we have no quarrel with media institutions. There was a time where the media was suppressed, where media institutions were bombed, shot at. Journalists were murdered and maimed. We have no intention of doing any such thing to the media. We hope that similar to the respect that we accord to the media, they too have a responsibility. We invite the media to engage in good media practices.
The third and final day of the second edition of the Ceylon Literary and Arts Festival took place today at the Colombo Public Library.
The final day of the Ceylon Literary and Arts Festival included a cultural celebration along with several panel discussions featuring renowned authors, novelists, actors and public figures. It also offered workshops, panel discussions and creative sessions across literature, art, film and youth development.
We think about identity in terms of subjectivity. It's about who am I as an individual. Sometimes it's about, what nation do we belong to? What is our national identity?
These thoughts come from the ether, and it is the sound of the pen which is the voice of the angels. In other words, when I begin to write, that's when I actually get inspired.
De-integration is trying to move this whole concept of living together beyond the framework of diversity itself.
People turn to poetry when words are not enough. That's the irony of it. People don't look at a painting when words are not enough. Interestingly, when 9/11 happened, it was poetry that people turned to.
What is the history of the war of science? Science is a way of creating knowledge, right? And knowledge is inherently political because knowledge creates power over the world.
The festival featured over 32 sessions during a span of 3 days with more than 50 distinguished authors and artists, including Pulitzer Prize winners, Gratian Prize recipients and State Prize honors. The festival also featured several art exhibitions, both for adults as well as for children.
Unless you find out what the fuss is all about and tender us advice on what to say and do and think and be. Now be off with you.
The number 2 was almost crying. He rushed off with his shirt tails flying without a cover button or hat and flew back in a minute flat.
The Sri Lankan women's cricket team kicked off their Under-19 T20 World Cup campaign with a convincing win against hosts Malaysia by defeating them by 139 runs.
In the match held in Kuala Lumpur, Sri Lanka won the toss and decided to bowl first. Sanjana Kavindi got off to a successful start with 30 runs off 13 balls and was later dismissed by Noor Dhania.
You can feel it.
Dehami Senetma scored 55 runs and in their allotted 20 overs, Sri Lanka women's team were able to score 162 for the loss of 6 wickets. Malaysia's innings was limited to 23 runs due to the experienced bowling of the Sri Lankan players and not a single batter could cross the 10-run mark. Chamodi Prabodha took 3 wickets for 5 runs. All matches of the tournament are being broadcast on TV1 and can also be streamed online at www.sirasatv.lk.
The last wicket.
Day 2 of the 10th edition of the Sirasa TV Magic Ice Cream Carnival was held today in Veerakkattiya. We leave you tonight with highlights of this event. Good night.
The 10th edition of the Sirasa TV Magic Ice Cream Carnival held in Veerakkattiya featured a fantastic array of attractions and activities for everyone to enjoy. The carnival offered something for all ages with games and activities specially organized for children and adults alike.